Hi everyone, today we're going to do notes number 3, absolute value linear equations. And again, keep in mind if you have any questions that you'd like to bring up next class, just stop the video and write those times down here and I'll be able to go over them with you tomorrow. So today we're going to talk about absolute values. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. And we represent absolute value in kind of straight up in bars, and we call those the absolute value brackets. It is a measure of distance, so it cannot be negative. Think about taking steps. You can take steps backwards, but you're just taking 3 steps backwards. You're not taking negative 3 steps. So if you think of it in that term, it makes it a little bit easier. So absolute value can be expressed in 3 different ways. You'd see the absolute value of 4 is 4. The absolute value of negative 4 is 4. However, if you see negative the absolute value of 4, well, the absolute value of 4 is 4. And then you still have multiplied by negative 1. So if you see that negative outside of your absolute value symbol, then you know that the number is negative. However, anything inside of your absolute value is going to be a positive answer. So absolute value can only be negative if there's a negative sign outside of the absolute value brackets. So again, another example would be if I have negative 2. So the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. However, I still have that negative sign, so it comes with the 2. So the absolute the absolute value of negative 2 is negative 2. So when we look at absolute value, we're really focusing on a number line or the distance it is from 0. So here we can kind of visualize what we're trying to see. So find the absolute value of 3, the absolute value of negative 3, and negative the absolute value of negative 3, and graph them on the number line provided. Well, the absolute value of 3 is simply 3. So if I graph that on my number line, I just have 3. Then if I look at absolute value of negative 3, well, I know that absolute value makes everything positive, so I have also 3. And finally, negative the absolute value of negative 3. Well, we just got that the absolute value of negative 3 is 3, and we have that negative in front, so it would be negative 3. We can get 2 answers when solving absolute value problems. And remember the order of operations. You treat absolute value the same exact way as parentheses. So the nice thing to do, the easiest thing to do, is to kind of split up into 2 problems. So anytime you see absolute value, we're going to break this into 2. When we break this into 2, we're going to see that we have p plus 9 equals positive 16. So one of the problems we're going to do works with positive 16, which is pretty much the same thing here, except the value signs are gone. And our second one is going to be p plus 9 equals negative 16. So we're basically going to solve for the positive and negative of the answer, or of the problem. So when I do that, I'd have subtract 9. This is going back to our first set of notes, which would leave me with p equaling 7. Over here, again, I'm going to subtract 9, which would leave p equaling negative 25. So these 2 answers are my possible solutions, because 7 plus 9 is 16. The absolute value of 16 is 16. Negative 25 plus 9 is negative 16. The absolute value of negative 16 is 16. So my 2 possible answers are p can be both 7 and negative 25. So I'd like you to try this next problem for homework. So I'd like you to stop the video now and take a minute and try that. So when you do this, you should have that b is going to equal 12 and negative 12. So I want to see the work for you to be able to get that. And we'll go over it tomorrow if you have any questions. sometimes we'll see something outside of the absolute value sign, and we need to eliminate that first. So if I look at problem 4, I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides, which would leave me with the absolute value of n plus 1 equals negative 11. Now I hope somebody figured out that this isn't possible, so here I would have no solution. And why do I have no solution? Well, I know that the absolute value anywhere needs to be positive, so how could I already have a negative answer? Okay, so your absolute value cannot be negative. So again, I'm going to give you a minute. I'd like you to try this one by yourself too. So pause the video and try it yourself. And here we should end up with x equaling both 11 over 7 and negative 1. Again, if you have problems with that or questions, I'd like to see it completed for homework or attempted for homework, and I'll check it tomorrow. If we look at problem 6, here it doesn't equal a negative number, so we can try and solve. So I'm going to break those into 2, so I have 1 divided by 4n equals 1/2, and 1 divided by 4n equals negative 1/2. Now here it looks like the easiest way would be cross multiplication. 2 times 1 is 2, 4n times 1 is 4n. Divide both sides by 4, and n is going to be 1/2, or 2 divided by 4. And over here, again, we're going to cross multiply, so we'd have 2 equals negative 4n. And again, we're going to divide both sides by 4, negative 4. And I'd have n equals negative 1/2. Which means n is going to be both 1/2 and negative 1/2. So this one's a little bit more difficult. So again, we can try and eliminate as much as we can. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Which would leave me with 3. 2x plus 3 equals 15. This is being multiplied, so I can divide this by 3. And when I divide that by 3, I'm left with the absolute value of 2x plus 3 equals 5. So I have 2x plus 3 equals 5. 2x plus 3 equals negative 5. And I'm just going to solve each of them. Subtract 3 to both sides. So 2x is going to equal 2. Divide both sides by 2, and I'd have x equals 1. Again, subtract 3 to both sides. And 2x is going to equal negative 8. Divide both sides by 2. And I have x equaling negative 4. So x is going to equal both 1 and negative 4. So again, if you have any questions, please make sure that you write down those times right up in the corner, and we'll make sure to go over it next class.